Hey everyone, super excited to do our first episode of The Leap tonight for the year 2023. Let's fucking go. Like it's midway through January, so like the end of that kind of tears off a little. Super excited about this week's guest. We'll get started here in just a minute and we'll get her up on stage and we'll get this thing going. Thanks to those who are joining us. Welcome back to The Leap. Really exciting episode to kick off the year. We're going to get our guest up here in just a second. So just give us a second and we will get this thing going. All right. All right. Let's see if we can get our guest up on stage and we'll get it going. Here we go.
Hey,
How you
hello,
doing?
hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm just going to do a quick little intro and then
Sounds
we'll
good.
get right
Yeah,
into it if
sounds
that works for
great.
you. Alrighty, awesome. So hey everybody, thanks so much for joining. Welcome back to The Leap, or welcome to The Leap if this is your first time. This is our first episode of the year. Super exciting. I'm Rachel Rennick. Which is a software platform that helps freelancers start and scale their studios. So we make it really easy to price complex projects and split payments. Every month, I interview a different creative entrepreneur about their journey taking the leap. This week's guest, super excited, Eden Connelly Tallarico. Am I saying that right? Nailed it. Okay, cool.
Well,
I just want to make sure. um, Founder of New Money Social Club, which really helps purpose-driven people get over their money blocks, which God knows we definitely need that. She's had a super interesting career path that we're going to talk about today. Everything from, starting out in nonprofits in Brooklyn, to moving into marketing roles, into holistic and non-toxic coaching and living, and is now a business coach, which we're going to dive into in just a second here. Ian, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Um, would love to just start a little bit and like tell us a little bit more in your words, how your journey to financial sort of freedom and freelance has evolved over time, and how you started to get into, the lane that you're in now.
yeah, for sure. Well, hi everybody. Welcome from upstate New York. So my career journey.
I'm
Oh,
from
hey, what
upstate, so
part?
shout out
Oh,
to Syracuse.
Syracuse. No, me too.
Syracuse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like
Oh wow, small world. I knew you were in upstate, but I was
yeah,
like, what are the
Syracuse is
chances?
like upstate. I mean, I'm not there now, but that's where I grew up. So that works out. Outside of Syracuse, actually, a small village. So basically, I had the luxury of going to a state school. Shout out to SUNY New Paltz, which is right here, and kind of not having a set career trajectory outside of that. Like, this was like 2003, and the options that were in front of me were like, teacher, military, doctor, like none of those made sense for me. And I didn't really see too many people doing anything else. And so when I was in college, I pretty much just followed my
Mm.
heart, followed my passion, which thank God, I was allowed to do. And I graduated with a degree in English, Spanish, and Black Studies. And I share that because at the time, this was 2007 when I graduated, there were like no career paths available for somebody who was, majoring in what I did, right? And studying what I was studying. And so, I moved to Brooklyn. I worked in nonprofits, and pretty much most of my 20s waffled back and forth between doing work that was working for nonprofits, working for different food businesses that were doing like sustainable and regenerative food work, working for a lot of folks in the holistic health industry, and kind of waffling between those types of jobs that were really fulfilling my purpose and my kind of soul, but usually did not equate to having any money coming in or enough money coming in, right? And so
Yeah.
then I would kind of ping pong into these more high paying gigs. I was a nanny, I was a private chef, I was a house manager for a place in the Hamptons. Like I was getting money where I could, and I was channeling my soul's purpose in this other space. It took me about a decade to realize that I could potentially merge the two. So when we moved upstate, my husband and I moved upstate in
Mm.
2019, and I was doing private chef work. And I thought it would be kind of a hard. It was hard to think about doing that where we were moving to an upstate, which was Ithaca at the time. And
Mm.
I was looking at my husband, who this was, back in 2019. He had already been working remotely like his whole career. He was, working in startup world, and I was kind of just jealous of him because he was making great money, kind of working from wherever, traveling the world. And so I was like, you know what, I want to like try my hand at that. And so I looked back at all my skill sets and I was like, okay, what can I possibly muster together that people want to pay me for to do online? And I realized that actually all the work that I had been doing for nonprofits, for holistic health companies, for restaurants, I would always build their websites. I would always run their social media, and I would just kind of like be their marketing champion. So I'm like kind of a natural born marketer. It's definitely been what I've always done, but I was so far removed from that world that I didn't even know that it was called marketing. And so when I first started off, I always say like if you put me in a room full of hippies, I was the biggest techie in the room somehow. But if you put me in a room full of tech people, I was definitely the biggest hippie in the room. And so while that was like, yeah, that
I
was,
feel that.
you know, a sore spot. Like when I was first getting started, it was something that like I like didn't feel good enough in either lane. And then I used it to my advantage. And I ended up doing digital marketing for holistic health companies, for DEI companies, for purpose-driven companies. And that's really where I found my sweet spot. So hopefully that wasn't too long ago. Oh, the reason why I started off by saying that I graduated with an English degree, Spanish and Black Studies, and me and my parents were like, what are you gonna do with that, right? You know, it all came together because just a few years ago, I had a bunch of clients that actually, so I had a bunch of clients in the DEI space and also in the holistic health space. And in the pandemic and in the racial justice uprising, a lot of these companies grew to be like $1 million companies almost overnight. And I was kind of uniquely positioned to support their marketing efforts in like a very purpose-driven way. And I was a strong copywriter and all these things. So basically that English degree, Spanish and the Black Studies actually perfectly positioned me for a future that like I could not predict at the time. And so I only share that just because I felt really lost for a lot of years. I'm sure a lot of other people too. But I think one day if you just kind of keep doing the things that make sense to you and soothe your soul, then one day, you know, you could be preparing yourself for like a future you can't predict yet.
Yeah, I love that. That's such an important thing. Like, I feel like so much of the knowledge and so many of the things that I've like picked up over the years just end up coming into the picture in so many
Yeah.
unforeseen ways. Um, and that's such an important thing because I don't think any learning is a waste. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it always kind of comes back around in some way, shape, or form. And like in terms of that tension between, making money, doing good, like that tension, I totally understand that tension. I think a lot of people feel that way. And I think the ability to sort of navigate that in this new world is going to be, increasingly more important. So obviously, what you're doing with New Money Social Club could not be more timely. I think as the generational shift even continues to go through, Gen Z is even more socially conscious than we were millennials. So I think dealing with that tension and how to not just like exist but like thrive in that system, I think is a really complex topic, and I'm just happy that someone's tackling it. um, I'm curious, like, so how did business coaching become sort of like the culmination of all these things together, and like what were some of the challenges moving into coaching and really being going fully independent
Yeah,
for
so
yourself?
I did digital marketing for the first 5 or 6 years. And, I noticed on that journey, I would work with a lot of solopreneurs. And I worked with companies of all sizes, but I'm the type of person where you can't just give me like a little piece of the puzzle to work on. I'm like, wait, but what's going on? Like, I need to see the whole system to understand how I can
Same.
like really put forth a solid marketing effort, right? So I need to know what's going on over here. And 9 times out of 10, when I looked what's going on over here, it's like, oh, like we need to like work on product. We need to work on like alignment. Like there's a lot of other work to do. And so I think after a couple of years, I had some clients that would just call me their coach. And so that kind of planted the seed. And I was like,
Interesting.
I can't just like do that though, like who's going to pay me to do that? Um, and then, but then I did start, kind of studying more like kind of the art of coaching and really supporting people and doing it a little bit more intentionally. And basically my catalyst to really dive into that full time was I had a baby in the spring, and my time now is just straight up halved. Like it just is. And so I needed to reassess like what's my highest impact, use per hour spent. where can I, move the needle the most? And also I just didn't have the hours that I had before to like work on all of the behind the scenes work that, running email campaigns, being the head of marketing for any company takes. So it was kind of that forced the issue to just allow me to surrender to that path. And once I did, and also in my own launching of New Money Social Club, I realized early on, I'm like, whoa, like I need a coach, like I need accountability. I think everybody can really benefit from having some type of business thought partner, right? And so I just saw how badly I needed that and was willing to pay people good money for it. And so it validated also, it validated the job for me. And then once I kind of did that on purpose, it was like, oh, there's a lot
Yeah,
of demand for this. So yeah,
totally. Yeah, it was like you know your customer because you were your
100%.
customer basically. That totally makes sense. Yeah, I feel like with coaching in particular, and when it comes to moving into a role like that, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned like your clients were the ones that kind of planted the seed to begin with, because I think, with any great like freelance business, you're not just like managing your clients and like crossing things off your to-do list, right? You are actually becoming a real partner to them, a
Mm-hmm.
real strategist with them, and being able to have those conversations and have them see you that way. I think like that's a feat in and of itself, honestly. So I feel like it totally makes sense that that would be the natural kind of next step there. Um, I want to ask because I think this tension lives in our society, but it must live on like sort of an everyday level for you as well. Like, how do you think about the distinction between like the mental health sort of side of things, like being, what does it really mean to be like holistic versus just business? I always say like I have an executive coach and a therapist, but the executive coach is like my
Yeah,
work therapist.
totally. Yeah, man. I mean, what you said earlier, I mean, it's just we're changing, and our generation is kind of assuming positions of power, and younger generations are kind of holding us to it as well. And it's just a different world, and thank God, right? Like, thank God the trends are pointing towards bringing your whole human self to work and being allowed to be a human. I think that humans have always been humans.
Yeah.
Humans have always had breakdowns. Humans have always needed support, needed breaks, but our systems were not designed to support that, and so we have massive systemic failure because of it, right? And so it's just as easy. Well, I think it's
Yeah.
easier actually to build sustainable systems. The way that I work with people is like, what do you want to be doing for at least the next 5 years? Let's think about what that is. Let's think about how much money you
Hmm.
need to be making. Let's think about what you love to be doing. Let's think about how many hours you have available, not on a good week, but like on average, right? So factoring in the good weeks and the bad weeks. And usually
Yeah.
it's never 40 hours a week. It's like usually a lot more like in the 20 range. And so just getting real about what sustainability looks like for all of us. And I've had I think I've had the tremendous privilege of being a thought partner and the head of growth for a company that it was a diversity, equity, and inclusion company. And we were really, I mean, we had to hold this space for ourselves as leaders and also for all of our employees, right? And so, and simultaneously had to make our bottom line, right? So we felt this tension so viscerally. And I was honestly really inspired by some of the leadership there, the founder there, who just, she had moments in her life where she just had to take a beat, right? Like just burn out, these types of things. And so you see how a company can actually stay afloat and survive with the good bones she built it with, so that she could be a human, catch her break and kind of come back stronger, and just know that that wasn't just a one-time deal for all of us. We're going to break sometimes. We're going to get sick. People we know are going to get sick. We're going to have babies. Like, things are going to happen. And so just building with that reality in mind, it's not easy, but it's more it's like more predictable to design with that in mind up front than like not like pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I think one of the big things that like this big shift to remote work did for all of us is like it shifted the perception of we used to build our lives around work, right? And so like wherever that institution was, everything else fit into whatever little pockets existed outside of that,
Mhm.
office building essentially. And now I think that has reversed itself, or rather the pendulum has swung in a direction, and now, we get to sort of build work around our lives. In the moment of like being remote and also being freelance, of course, you have an even bigger amount of
Mhm.
freedom in that regard. But with freedom, I think that freedom is also terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, because suddenly, oh, where I live isn't going to be dictated by where I work necessarily. So like, where do I actually want to live? And like, we're all kind of having, I guess I can speak for myself, but like, I feel like a lot of people in my life are having kind of these big existential kind of questions that are happening, and where work fits into all of that can vary, and it can change throughout like your entire life basically. And so I think that, having that conversation up front and building for that, sort of designing for that kind of
Mhm.
the chaos of life, right? Whereas
Mhm.
work could be more predictable, up front must be really effective people. And that must also, I think that
Mhm.
level of realism is super important, because sometimes like it's annoying to hear the answer like just work less, and it's like there's a lot of
Yeah.
nuance
Oh
there.
yeah.
Like, how do you do that?
The founder.
And so I feel like approaching it in that way is awesome. Yeah. And oh yeah, I know. I mean, that's a whole other. We could have like a whole conversation about that. But so I love this idea of like new money, and the embracing of that, and how you're sort of working with all these different small business owners and entrepreneurs. Can you tell us a little bit more about New Money Social Club? Like, how did you decide to start it? How did it come to be? And
Yeah,
why are
for
you building
sure.
it?
So I've always been a personal development nerd. I've definitely always been into all the self-help books. I'm that like annoying friend that's like, just encouraging the best out of all of us. And so I,
Probably not annoying
oh,
then.
you'd be
Probably the
surprised.
best
You'd
friend.
be surprised.
Wow.
um, but it was good for me to start making the distinction of like, oh, okay, I should just like make this my work, and so that people who really want it can pay me for it rather than be like, you know, unsolicited. But basically, so I learned early on just the crucial role that like mindset plays in anything
Mm,
that we build, anything that we do, any of our success in life. I mean, if you look at any successful founder, entrepreneur, anybody who's really done anything and is living this sort of aligned life, 9 times out of 10, they have a support system, they have a coach, they are enrolled in a mastermind, they have some type of support structure there. And I feel like that's this like secret and mystery to a lot who are out here just kind of like flailing without help. And also, if they're anything like me, so I lived in Brooklyn for many years. I was like, you know, Bushwick, hanging out with tattooed bartender types that were kind of like side eyeing the whole world, fuck everything, and like I'm with it,
yeah.
but like being kind of salty and sarcastic and like rolling your eyes at like self help and personal development was like a part of my lived experience too. So like I get it. So like one, I wanted to create a
Mm,
brand of just mindset work and all of that stuff that you need to really be successful as an entrepreneur. I wanted to create a brand that like I felt comfortable in. Um, and I think also I wanted to just make it more accessible because, for a lot of folks, like getting a coach, getting to be a part of a mastermind can be extraordinarily expensive. It can be a really high price of admission. And I just don't actually like, I see the function of that. Like a lot of coaches are, a lot of digital marketing, will push people down the pipeline of being like, you charge that, 5-6 figure package, for your monthly. And I think a lot of people can and should do
mhm.
that. But, I don't know, I guess I saw a gap with just like a population that can afford more like maybe $97 a month. That these are people that I love to work with because I could
Mhm.
see how quickly change can happen when people are equipped with just a little bit of like a positive vibe in their ear, because most of us are freelancing or trying to we have our business idea in our minds and we get all hype about it, like when we like write in our journal, but then we go and like tell our friends about it, or we tell our family about it, and then we just get deflated really quickly, right? And so it's so
Yeah.
crucial to have
Yeah.
a community of folks that are trying to get their money too, and people who are values aligned, right? People who are not like evil rich people but people who are therapists and coaches and just doing purpose-driven work, and they're trying to get that money. So we need to see that reality reflected back at us. And I found that when we do get that, we change so much quicker. So sorry, I went on a tangent, but like new money. So I knew that I wanted it to be a social club. And then, yeah, I knew that I wanted the like keywords, like money and business in it. And so I just was playing around. And then I was like, oh, duh, actually what we are creating here is a type of new money making, right? It's reclaiming that word new money, right? Because old money connotates, I mean, it's weird because I think culturally old money is seen as being more legitimate, or more, just more legitimate, and like new money is like, oh, they got it from the,
you've got all the etiquette and all the the things and the winks and the like there's all that stuff.
Exactly. In like rich folk culture, there is that distinction. I've seen, but like, yeah, new money is looked at as this like, this kind of, cheap and new, and they don't know how to act type of thing. And to really just poke holes in that, because most old money, if we're talking old money, we're talking inherited money. And most companies that are passing down wealth from generation to generation, most of them are built from some type of extractive, system, right? Whether it's in slave labor or just resource extraction or displacement. And so like, I don't want to do that. And I don't think we should strive to that, right? And so it's kind of just holding space for a different way of being, holding space for a different way of money making, and giving it a title, and a kind of space for folks to step into. Yeah.
I love that. It's like it's like a double entendre, right? Like it means both really, which is like the newness of coming into money or making money of your own, building wealth really, not just like inheriting it. But also I think there is a lot in there around growing and the growth and like how you actually get that money. And I feel like there's got to be a new way, right? Or else like the direction that we're running in, which is just like kind of capitalism, growth at all costs, is obviously not working. Or at least it's not working for a large part of the population. It's working for some, now let's say. So in terms of New Money Social Club, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you think about like remaining accessible, with your price point. And also obviously you want to be a profitable, thriving business. You don't want to be tearing your hair out, working a million hours a week, like as none of us do. Like how do you balance that? And how do you keep things accessible to the audience that you want to work with?
We're embarking on that journey right now. I have growth trajectory, but right now I am following more of a slow business, slow growth model. Because I want it to be around for the next 5 years at least, right? And so I know that I needed to start with we had an awesome launch, which is really exciting. And so we have a solid group of members in there. But right now I'm just sort of establishing the culture and seeing, how big we can grow things with the vibe still being there, right? So that's kind of the model that I'm exploring right now. When it comes to, so yes, we run into this problem all the time, and this question I run into it with a lot of clients and a lot of folks in new money. And so in terms of some solutions around, how do we remain accessible, but we still need to charge good money so that we're making good money, right? And there's a few different ways that I've seen this done really, really well, and a few different ways that I followed. One is like a tiered pricing model. So acknowledging the fact that like most of us out here are creating free content all the time. A lot of us maybe too much. But the point,
doing
exactly.
it right now.
But the point is that you should create quality, free, like give generously, like give your best gems for free, right? And give that, like allow that to be available and accessible to everybody who needs it. And I know that on my journey, there's been many times where I couldn't afford something that I wanted to learn. Like I couldn't afford to like join the group or whatever. So I just bought the book, or I just, follow them on Instagram, and like, that's fine too. Okay. So acknowledge that there's going to be some people that only consume your free content, and that's okay. Next level up, we have some type of group slightly more accessible pricing, but you are maximizing per hour you are spending doing something, you're maximizing it by serving more than just one person, right? And so, and I guess specifically I'm talking about service-based businesses, but so some type of group offering, right, is usually the middle tier, and then the top tier is any type of one-on-one service when it's just you and that one person. And the thing is like, there's some people who have the money, don't have the time, and they're going to pay for that one-on-one service day in and day out. I know there's been times in my life where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be a part of your group coaching program. I just need to be in front of you for 45 minutes. I'm going to pay you $500 for it because I just need the answers, right? And so just allowing people to engage, like self-select the level at which they want to engage with you. And if you have something for free for everybody, something for slightly, more accessible for more people, and then slightly, definitely charging whatever price point you need to charge for it to be profitable and sustainable, for the people that want to work with you directly. That's one model. There's so many other models, because I think that when you're doing this, when you're trying to build profitable, sustainable businesses, and you're a super purpose-driven person or business, the fact of the matter is you have to create new pathways, right? Like you have to get creative, you have to get strategic. Yeah. And that's what I help clients do. And so I've seen that now like dozens of times, and it's just like the most glorious thing in the world. I've seen people kind of be like, all right, an herbalist that I work with, she wanted to continue serving like our most marginalized folks who just straight up don't have money to pay her the full price for her herbal medicine course. But she had all these other people who did want to pay her full price for her herbal medicine course. And so she started a monthly sustainer campaign. So she gets enough donations every month to be able to, supplement her business, to pay, to be able to allow her target demographic to take the course for free, and other people pay her. So, and that's like a flourishing, beautiful business that's, been going on for the past 2 years. And so there's all types of models out there, and we have to be creative. But if you're determined and if you're creative, I've absolutely seen it work time and time again.
Yeah, I think having your like revenue model, how you make money, like aligned with your audience, your customer, your target customer, is like the best way to do business. I think when you're not like thoughtful about that, I think that's when you end up in the situation where you're either selling a product or something or a service you're not super proud of, for maybe a price point you're not super proud of, or you end up in a place, I think, where you lose sight of like why you wanted to do it to begin with. You end up moving too far away from the customers that you actually want to help, and then you just lose it, you lose sight of that. So it's super, super important. I think if I remember correctly, you have a class coming out around this soon, or is that is that out yet? Can people?
Thank you. No,
I guess, where
thank
can
you
people
so
find
much,
you
Rachel.
if they want to?
For sure, yeah. So if you go to newmoneysocial.club, at newmoneysocial.club or newmoneysocial.club, the website, you can get a free masterclass where it's how to build profitable, sustainable businesses doing with what you love without overcharging your audience or overworking yourself. Okay, so that's like all of the inputs that we need to to plug in. Yeah, so there's a lot of really awesome tips and tricks in there to help people get started or supercharge their journey.
Amazing. Last question. Yes, for sure. Last question, but certainly not the least. Any advice for folks who are either looking to take the leap to freelance or maybe have just gone freelance, possibly not by choice, with the layoffs going on?
I say bet on yourself. Like I don't know. I've never met anybody who has made that leap and like gone back, unless it was out of like pure choice and like an amazing opportunity came along. But I've never seen anybody leave their day job or whatever, start their own thing, and then regret it, like, ever. So I think just usually we are far more capable than we give ourselves credit for. And if you're feeling kind of stifled in your environment, and you got the urge to do it, like, just try it out. Everything is figure outable. And there's so much support out there. And I really do think it is mindset and mathematics. So don't rely on just the I can do it. Did you watch White Lotus? So like the second one,
yes.
when she's like, you got this, and then then she like jumps out of the, yeah. So like, yes, mindset,
Yeah.
but like also do the math on it.
But like do
Like
the math.
if you do those two things, like you can't lose.
Yes, yes, for sure. I totally agree with that. I love that. We'll leave it at that, honestly, because I think that's such a huge thing. Like double down on yourself, bet on yourself. I completely agree. I've never ever regretted doing that. So, could not agree more. Ian, thank you again for joining us. Really appreciate it. If folks want to follow
Mm-hmm.
along, I know you're at New Money Social Club. Anywhere else that they can catch
That's
you or
really
follow
it.
along on your journey?
That's where it's at. newmoneysocial.club. Thank you so much. It's so great to connect with you, Rachel. I love
Awesome.
Wethos. I love what y'all are doing over there. And I'm super grateful to connect with you guys today.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks. That
Yeah.
made my day. um, for anybody who's tuning in, next time we'll be back next month for another episode of The Leap. But thank you guys for coming in tonight. We'll be posting a recap and some clips and all that jazz, all that good stuff in the coming
Cool.
week or so. So thank you again, and have a good night, everybody.